Balikan natin ang ating mga karambolista at ang programa Karambola sa DWIZ.
Oh, Karambola sa DWIZ.
Nagbabalik ang Karambola kasama sa Impilan, Joel Laksamana. Ako po si Trixie Cruz Angeles.
Wow!
Ay, Martin. Kasama namin si Sir Martin. Introduce yourself.
Kasama namin si Martin Ko.
Yes.
Entrepreneur na kaibigan namin.
Morning.
Na madalas, dumaan dito with chocolate.
At chocolate,
Kakao.
Yun yung namin Yun yung fee namin.
It's either coffee or chocolate.
Yes, correct. Yan. Since since matagal na kami. So cacao is from the province. Here you grew this in summer.
Hindi, as usual, I just bought it from yung vendor dun malapit sa may palengke.
Pero in summer?
Yeah, in summer.
So it is grown in summer?
Most probably combination of kasi minsan pag nagkukulang daw supply namin, kumukuha pa rin elsewhere yung mga yan eh.
Mm-hmm. So how is the industry growing?
Backyard.
Doon sa sama.
Alam mo,
backyard.
halos lahat naman ang ang kakao dito sa Pilipinas, backyard industry yan.
Yeah.
With the exception, I think, of Davao.
In
Pero
Davao.
actually, backyard pa rin, kino-consolidate lang nila. And then they're now planting more trees.
Yeah.
Pero sila lang yung talagang how do you call this? They're turning it into a larger, rather than a backyard endeavor. Although, hindi rin masama yung backyard kasi nagkakaroon ng income yung mga, yung mga
When you say backyard, gano'ng kalaking yield per...
Sometimes, like this one, yung binilang ko na to, they have like 3 big jars. Tapos you have choices. 5 peso per piece, 10 peso per piece, 15 peso per piece.
Okay, nice.
Ganun lang sila. Then, sometimes they sell yung mga bags, like plastic bag this big. Siguro, I'm sure just around mga 3-5 kilos ng laman. So, you process your own. Nandun sa may palengke lang, sa merkado.
Okay. Meanwhile, may story ako Yesterday, pinag-usapan natin kasi yung sa DOH, yung kakulangan ng nurses.
Okay, yeah.
Kasi sabi ng DOH, si Sec Teddy Orbosa said, na in 3 to 5 years, wala tayong nurses. Or there will be, parang magkaka-crisis proportions na. Kukunti na lang ang mga nurses natin dahil ang daming umaalis.
Everybody's
and syempre, hindi rin natin, we cannot blame them for leaving. Mas mataas talaga ang bayad for, and it is a profession. Yeah. Diba? So, as well as a calling. So, sabi ni Sec Teddy, ang proposal niya originally was, i-allow natin na mag-practice, bigyan ng temporary permit yung mga hindi pumasa ng nursing board but received a grade of 70 to 74. 75 being the passing. So, 74 point something, pwede pa yan. Lahat yan, up to 70. And then temporarily they'll be given permits to allow them to practice nursing while they either retake the board and eventually hopefully they pass na. Ayaw ng PRC. So I did actually have a look at the nursing law and tama sila. Kailangan meron kang certificate and the certificate you get it after you pass in order to practice nursing. Ngayon, so ang ginawa ni Sec Teddy, alright, we will hire them as nursing aides. Ayan, legal yan. Okay. So, it is not a regulated profession. You don't need a certificate and you will be assisting the nurses. Pero sabi ng PRC, okay, yes, good. Okay, pumayag sila kasi nag-meeting sila with hindi ako sanay, with Sec Teddy. Sabi ng PRC, okay, agreed, we can do that. That's a good idea. And even the congressmen are willing to help amend the law to allow them to kahit na umabot na dun sa point na pwedeng permits, temporary permits. Pero, for the meantime, as nursing aides, sabi ng PRC, okay, but it does not solve the deficiency problem. It does not solve the lack of nurses. And therefore, yun na nga, sinasabi ni Sec Teddy, he is now meeting with legislators to allow, habang gumagawa tayo ng long-term solution, like, finding ways na mas maganda yung compensation ng mga nurses natin dito, to allow yung mga underboard, na yung mga, if you didn't pass between 70 to 74 yung grade nyo, then you will be allowed to temporarily practice until you get, you pass the board. Yung details niyan will be worked out, pero yun pa rin ang magiging stopgap natin na solution to the expected shortage which will happen in about 3 years. So okay naman, hindi naman pala it's not a clash between the Secretary of Health at saka the PRC. Nag-uusap naman po sila. And the good thing is that they're coming up with solutions. Yun nga lang, ultimately, what we have to address here is yung kakulangan both ng supply. Ang daming gumagraduate, ang daming pumapasa ng board, pero they don't want to stay here. Plus, yung number of hours na requirement, yung OJT and all that, na requirement ng ano ba yun, for working abroad,
Work experience in
medyo nananamantala yung mga ibang hospitals. So, the nurses in training have to pay to get the hours that they require para maka-work sila abroad. So, ginawa ninyong industriya. In other words, what kind of incentive are we giving them to stay? Diba? Kung ako yan, pumasa ka na and so on, pasok ka na. Posibleng yung parang not an apprenticeship, pero may mentoring program until you, not just for hours anymore, but for you to actually make this a profession. Dito sa Pilipinas, bakit ka magbabayad? For me, even if aalis yung mga yan,
napaka-disincentive nun. Maglalabas ka pa ng pera,
and it's inhumane. It's not, anong tawag dyan? Diba? Sure, they get hours, but you don't get paid. So what's that? That's slavery. You're asking them to work for nothing, and in fact asking them to pay for these hours. I think this is one of the things that have to be addressed. Is this legal?
Yeah.
Ako, I wouldn't consider it legal kasi nga walang compensation kahit man lang baryahin mo, bigyan mo ng pamasahe. Bagkus ay magpapabayad ka pa.
Well, ako, bottom line, tingin ko okay yung suggestion ni Secretary Herbosa. It seems like an out-of-the-box solution. It's not as if yung ito namang ibang kababayan natin, mga flunkers kagad ang tawag dyan. I mean, it's a...
ang sama ng headlines.
Sama kagad ng headlines.
Board flunkers to be hired.
Yan, Tsaka it's not as if kaagad-agad pa-assist mo sila para sa mga major delicate surgeries or something.
How dare you?
Assistants, dun sa mentors, mentees pala.
Ininsulto pa? May kasama pang we're looking to them as our solutions, tapos insultuhin
nyo pa. Hindi, this is
it's the media, by the way. Hindi DOH ang nagsasabi nun, or even the PRC.
Meanwhile, again, we will repeat it. We mentioned it. Binanggit na namin ito nung nakaraang linggo. At ito, nababasa ko na naman na dapat, ang gawin daw ni Secretary Herbosa to solve the nursing crisis is to have the Marcos administration master the political will na taasan ng sweldo ng mga nurses sa lahat ng mga private hospitals, medical facilities. Alam niyo po, ang problema natin po dyan, pipe dream po yan we are not a first world country. Pag ginawa niyo po yan, pinagtataas natin ang sweldo na on par dun sa kahit na hindi on par malayo sa mga nasa Europe at sa US, magsasarahan po yung mga ospital na yan, yung mga medical facilities na yan. Dahil kung dyan mapupunta lang yung kanilang di ba, yung kanilang revenue kikitain. I mean, that's the reality. Reality na again may mga sumagot dati na magkano per hour dun sa abroad, hindi talaga matatapatan yan. So, having said that, meron akong mga kakilala, meron pa nga akong mga kamag-anak that they elected to stay here. They're working in provincial hospitals. Mga nurse sila. Why? Kasi gusto ko rito mas malapit. Well, okay,
you're with your family.
Sa pamilya ko. I mean, alam rin nila, okay, kikita ko rin, but hindi ako masaya I mean, I don't like to live in some cold, windswept country in Scotland or something, parang dyan. Dito katabi ko yung aking mga kamag-anak. Nagkakakita kaming reunion. Tsaka, itong mga sinisilbihan ko, kababayan ko. I mean, shout out kay Rose Malilara. Pinsan ko yan na nasa Del Gallego, Camarines Sur, sa ospital doon. Isipin mo si Rosemary, after her nursing studies, should be now in the UK or in France or something. She likes working here.
By the way, marami tayong mga taga-subaybay na mga nurses in various places. In particular, meron tayo like a whole division sa New York. Kamusta po kayo?
Meanwhile, naintindihan.
I hope you're all well.
Meron akong dalawang kaibigan mo, mag-asawa, husband and wife team. Actually, they're entrepreneurs. They own a physical fitness center sa may Parañaque.
Okay.
Maganda na. Daming barkada. We have family days and all that. Wala, parehong registered nurse. Physical therapist pa yung lalaki. And grabe naman yung okay, they did, grabe yung sweldo na kikitain nila sa UK. So, they put up a 5-year plan. Okay, 5 years, tapos dala na yung anak nila, si Luke, mag-aaral doon. Then they go back. Hindi nila sinara yung business nila rito, they'll go back to it. But what I'm saying is, they could not turn their back on that dahil sa edad nila at yung sa kanilang expertise. By the way, hindi sila nagtatrabaho sa ospital. Nagtatrabaho sila. May ganun pala yung hindi nursing home, mga senior citizens or PWD, binabayaran sila per hour, they go to the house. And they work for several hours, a few hours, and then pwede nang umuwi, and then gano'n. And they're not working yung on-call ka o by shift sa ospital. Hindi ganun. So, sabi ko, okay Anong ginagawa niyo? Wala. Physical therapist, ako nurse, elderly. That's it.
Assistance.
They do it around London and then they're earning good money. But yun na nga, meron din akong pinsan at yung mga kasama niya nasa Del Gallego Medical Center. Okay sa kanila magtrabaho doon for yung sweldo, maliit. Ang problema lang sa'yo, Rosemary, kailangan mag-asawa ka na, wala kang boyfriend.
Grabe.
Okay. Again, hindi am I being
Why? Yes,
what is
it's
the politically incorrect?
It's politically incorrect.
Baka slim ang pickings naman.
Why is it the end all of a woman's
Naku, magagalit siya. May lumiligaw. Again, nothing taga-PNP.
Why do we have to
Okay
get
yan.
married?
Okay yan.
Why is that necessarily a good thing to get married? Why is that supposed to be a goal?
She's beautiful.
And therefore, sayang? Ganon?
Are
you saying sayang pag hindi kinasal ni nagkaanak? Walang fulfillment? I think you just walked right into that.
Landmine yan.
Naku, doon na halata edad ko. Ang tingin ko tayo, mag-asawa ka na. Dati galit na galit ako. Ginaganon ako noon.
Diba?
Kailan kayo magkakaanak? Yung mga ganun. Okay. Well, anyway, tuloy mo. Good job, Rosemary. O sige, I will shut up. I'm straying into no man's land.
That is correct. Also, commentary on women's reproductive, how do you call this? Anything. Okay. Since you do not have the same womb and you do not carry a baby to term and therefore create a bond that is, that kind of freaks you out every so often. So, I'm telling you, all mothers in some way or another are insane. Because what kind of force drives you to sacrifice your own life, to put your health in danger for another human being? It's because you carry that human being inside you. It's it's unbreakable. And it makes you do really nutty things.
Totoo.
My kids will attest to this. So anyway, so in the meantime, maraming nagtatanong, ano ba nangyari sa Russia?
Uy!
Ay!
Okay.
I've been reading a lot of
let's
sinabi
hear.
natin ni Winston Churchill, Russia is a mystery within a mystery, wrapped within an enigma. Ayan, nakikita mo na ngayon. Hirap kilatisin.
Oh yeah. So it's being called the Wagner Mutiny. Wagner Mutiny. Ride of the Valkyries naman yata yan. By Wagner, the composer.
From chef.
Pero ikwento niyo, sino ba si Wagner? Ano ba nangyari
From being
dyan?
a chef to a PMC, di ba?
Pero he's a top general o commander.
Si ano yun? You're talking about what's his name? Prigozhin. Okay, Prigozhin owns the private military company named Wagner. Okay. what is a private military company?
Interesting.
Basically, these are mercenaries. These are professionally trained soldiers. Sundalo sila. Pero usually, ang sundalo, they're in the service of a particular country. Ito, they're in the service of whoever pays them.
Soldier of fortune.
So, this is not the first time we're hearing about private military groups. The US,
Blackwater.
nung hindi sila makabayad ng mga benefits para sa kanilang mga sundalo at mga opisyales, ay inaugment nila yung kanilang mga tropa with Blackwater. Which were, what do you call them? At the time, they were called security specialists.
Security consultant.
Consultants. Pero lumalaban sila. Technically, mali yun. Kasi, but they were just using the same terms they were using in the Vietnam War. And sa Vietnam, nagpadala sila ng 70,000 troops over several years, maraming namatay and so on. Ang tawag sa kanila, hindi foreign troops, kundi consultants.
Consultant/advisor.
Pero lumalaban, ang consultants, advisory position. Advisory yung position na yon. So, katakataka bakit sila nandun. Pero may issues kasi ng sovereignty. Pag naglagay ka ng military sa ibang bansa, ang tanong is, pinayagan ba ng ibang bansa na yon? So, given yung gulo, let's say sa Vietnam, nung time na yon, sila ba ay pinayagan? May sovereign issues yan. Kaya kahit dito sa atin, kahit walang balikatan, may mga tropa ng US dito. At ang tawag natin sa kanila, consultants at advisors.
Consultant.
Kaya hindi sila pwedeng makipagbarilan sa mga enemies natin. Meron naman tayo mga internal enemies, di ba? Hindi sila pwedeng pwede nilang ituro. They're over there, they're over here, ganyan. And which is the kind of, how do you call this, balancing act that we have to do. Kahit may MDT, kahit may EDCA, hindi pa rin sila pwedeng lumaban. Ang ibig sabihin kasi ng uniforme ay ahente ng gobyerno. And when you are an agent of the state, you act as though you are the state. Okay? You are a state force. And therefore, yung actions mo are the actions of a sovereign. So, US military in uniform dito sa Pilipinas are acts of the sovereign United States. So, yung legal fiction natin, meron tayong EDCA. But in order to preserve our sovereignty, hindi sila pwedeng makipagbarilan. Hindi sila pwedeng mag-act like soldiers and do actual rescuing, actual shooting, hunting down terrorists and all that. Hindi nila pwedeng gawin yan dito. They can only train our soldiers, train our military, and provide advice and consultation. Pero dito, yung Wagner, yung private military company ay, private at ginagamit ng Russia. Ginagamit nila sa Ukraine. Okay. So, by all accounts, winning ang Russia daw. Of course, it depends on which network you're reading.
If you're reading RT or
diba?
if you're reading
Russia is gaining ground sa Ukraine. Diba? As far as, in fact, even the most hardcore US, rara boys in the media are saying that Russia has the upper hand. Simply, yung iba, you can tell that Russia has the upper hand kasi tahimik yung rara boys ng US sa media. So, given that advantage, biglang naggawa ng demands itong si Mr. Prigozhin. Meron siyang kaaway sa top echelons ng Russian military. Sino ba itong yung defense minister?
Si
Sergei Shoigu.
Shoigu.
At saka Chief of General Staff Valery Gerasimov. I love Russian names. They're so much fun. So, ayun. Meron siyang mga demands.
Ammunition.
No, ito yung weird. Backgrounder muna. Ano bang, itong si head ng Wagner, si Prigozhin, is close to Putin.
He's like a crony or some sort.
In fact, ang tawag sa kanya, favored warlord. Kasi that's actually what he was. Warlord siya in some province in Russia. He hired he created Wagner and then, volunteered to support Russia's efforts in the Ukraine. Of course, for a fee.
Close to his heart siya kay Putin.
So, but recently, because of what happened, galit na si Putin. Sino ba si Prigozhin? Mayaman to, warlord, and one of Putin's former close allies. So, isa pa. So, sino ang ginagamit ni Prigozhin dito? Aside from his already employed mercenaries, kumuha din siya ng mga Russian prisoners.
10,000 prisoners.
Holy cow, ganun pala kadami. Okay.
So you fight there in Ukraine, if you live, parang...
you get your freedom. Yun yung kapalit.
Umabang ka lang. Ilalaban talaga yan. Sige, ilalaban talaga yan.
So I wonder what state of health they're in. Diba? Kasi kung matagal ka na sa preso with all the deprivation and all that.
Cannon fodder, basically.
Oo, panghagis. Of course, yung mga recent na pwede. So, yung accusation ni Prigozhin sa defense minister ay incompetence.
They've been bungling the war effort, sabi niya. Kasi siya ang masterclass na kung paano na talagang lumaban sa Ukraine. Dahil nananalo sila. Well, yun ang...
2014, he was there already.
Nandun na siya.
Correct. So, basta incompetence, hindi siya marunong, maraming mistakes, and hindi nga dapat inabot ng ganito katagal, supposedly, kung competent daw. Yung defense, tawag ba, minister ba? Defense chief ng Russia, kasi wala namang maliit yung trained army ng Ukraine. And in fact, karamihan ng lumalaban sa Ukraine, untrained civilian, quote-unquote, volunteers. They're not actually, di ba, there of their own free will. Yung iba, kapit sa patalim. Yung iba, parang nakakahiya naman. Conscripts and all that. So,
people.
Paano mangyayari na natatabla ang Russia? Well, aside from the support of the US, syempre, meron dyan, miraculously, may mga dumadating. Miraculously, meron silang mga ganito, meron silang munitions, parang hindi nauubos.
Mas malupit pa sa EDCA.
Ammunition, free ammunition from everywhere.
Para silang yung mga action stars natin, di ba, na hindi nauubusan yung bala.
Hollywood movie.
Ganon, Tapos merong yung air support, yun lang ang medyo controversial kasi ayaw ng mga neighboring countries madamay dito. Paano kung manalo ang Russia, di galit na forever ang Russia. Paano kayo mag-bilateral treaty? And you need their fuel. You will need,
sira yung mga defense contractor.
Correct. Isa pa yun. Of course, sira yung mga defense contractors. Tapos, meron pa siyang accusation na ina-undersupply yung Wagner.
Yun yata yung parang naging trigger.
The ammunition.
Ginasanabi ng naging trigger. Withheld yung bala, ammunition sa kanilang, sa Wagner fighters.
Supplies.
So, something ganun. Tayo naman, di tayo privy. Ina-accusation niya.
So, na-upset na yung balance. Kasi binabalanse niya, knowing Putin, he would use one against the other. To
kill each other off.
Yeah. Keep your enemies divided or your friends divided also so they don't gang up on you. Napuno itong ang Wagner, si Prigozhin.
First strike.
And then after making demands, started a march to Moscow. They were coming from Ukraine. So, nag-march sila to...
Wala sa front line.
He called it a march for justice.
Kuha ka na isang brigade doon.
Takutan
sabi daw, but of course, ang nag-report nito, Reuters. So, take it with a grain of salt. Kasi ang Reuters, medyo, hindi na nila tinatago yung pagka one-sided. Yung kanilang leanings. Medyo...
RT was saying daw, di ba, binayaran daw nung ganyan, may bayad na daw kagad do si Wagner galing somewhere.
Oo, meron daw, allegedly, na tumanggap ng bayad.
5 billion, something?
Oo, para to instigate this, para
crazy.
Sabi ng Reuters, allegedly, take it with a grain of salt, na sinabi daw ni Prigozhin, the war in Ukraine was built on lies and called for evil. Tingin ko meron ng may karga na to.
Oo.
It doesn't, what does it what does it serve Mr. Prigozhin to say something like that? Ang kalaban niya yung defense minister. So, just be aware rin na ang daming dito. Ang daming, how do you call this? Ang daming karga. Yung mga, hindi na reporting komentaryo na Hindi na
Right. Itong mga to no?
Naging op-ed bigla.
Totoo yan. Straight news. Op-ed masquerading as straight news. Okay. Meanwhile, ang isa pang akusasyon ay si Shoigu daw ay tinago ang 2,000 dead bodies daw ng Wagner men.
Wagner.
Mas mabili yung mga preso.
Well, kung hindi ka trained enough to, sinabak mo, parang kumbaga warm bodies lang sila, tagasalon ng bala.
Cannon fodder, basically.
Yun. Sinabi pa niya that the Russian military attacked his troops.
Nung March pa.
Ayun yung mga tinagong bodies.
Forcing them
Supposedly,
to fire back.
So, hindi malinaw kung saan nanggagaling yung, at saka bakit biglaan yung mga kwentong ganito. Kasi, the West, pag nakaamoy sila ng weakness, nag-aaway yung dalawa, exploit. Bakit ngayon natin naririnig to? So, my guess is there's more to it pa than that's actually being reported and lumalabas.
More than meets the eye.
But has this weakened Putin? Actually, that's one of the bottom line.
Hindi naman, umabot kay Putin So, in fact, he appeared dun sa sa TASS, yung Russian news agency, strongly worded speech against Wagner and called it treason. Which is true. It is treason by any definition. Nasa gyera kayo. Tapos suddenly you will attack your own country's troops. Okay, pero bago na-quell lahat ito, nagmamarcha na sila na involved dito si the other guy. The head of, anong pangalan ng country na yan?
Belarus. Lukashenko, he brokered the deal.
Yung sa Ukraine, di ba?
Belarus president.
Belarus. So that in itself is nakaka-misteryo din
Yeah.
So,
why would I broker a deal with these two guys?
So lahat yan nangyari Friday. Weekend, Friday. By Saturday, nakatawid na sila into Russia from Ukraine. So, tapos, medyo naging, yung mga local government officials ng Russia at that area told the citizens, you stay in your homes and so on. Kasi nagumarcha lang naman, wala namang violence. Pero show of force yun. Kasi may dala silang tangke, dala nila yung
BMPs.
Maintindihan mo kung bakit sinasabi nila it's a coup. It's not a coup. Okay? Ang magkalaban dito, Prigozhin was very careful with his words. Hindi nila gusto itopple si Putin. Ang gusto lang niya, i-take down si defense minister. Ang gulo. Okay.
They even offered nga, di ba, yung mga troops of Wagner, if you're not involved, sabihin nyo na kagad.
Oo. So, nag-demand siya, si Prigozhin, nung Saturday ito, sa headquarters, na may nakipag-meet sa kanya yung Army Lieutenant General, si Vladimir Alexeyev. Nakipag-meet sa kanya, may video na lumabas. So, nag-usap sila at tinuloy-tuloy pa rin niya yung mga demands. The march was to continue on Saturday. Ito na, pumasok na si Lukashin. Nag-umanda. In the meantime, hindi naman nag-stand down lang yung Russian military. There was an order that came out, I think it might have been from Putin himself, but the Defense Ministry ordered the military to consider the Wagner fighters as a terrorist group. So, the tensions are still high by Saturday, but as they were advancing towards Moscow, 5,000 fighters pala ito.
Kasama ba dyan yung mga convict?
I don't know. Siguro nandun pa sa Ukraine yung wala akong nakita dun sa...
I don't know kung it wouldn't be in their interest.
Mga regulars to.
So, on Saturday din, pumasok na si Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko at nag-usap sila with Prigozhin, who agreed to de-escalate the situation. si Lukashenko ang nag-offer to mediate. Maganda yung si Lukashenko kasi close siya kay Putin. They have history together at ni-recognize naman siya ni Prigozhin. Nung Saturday night, nag-start na mag-pull out.
Nag-usap na
Halika dito.
I will let down kung ano. By Saturday night, nag-pull out na yung Wagner forces. Tuloy natin pagbalik ng Karambola. Oras natin 9:35 ng umaga.
Balikan natin ang ating mga karambulista at ang programa Karambola sa DWIZ.
Karambola. Karambola.
Babalik ang Karambola kasama sa himpilan. Martin ko, Joel Laksamana. Ako po si Trixie Cruz Angeles. So we're in the middle of this narration ng ano. Para dun sa ngayon ko lang nakita yung mga comments. It's spelled with a W.
Yeah.
Wagner. But it is pronounced with a V. Wagner. So the Nordic, Germanic countries, etc., the Slavic countries, that's how they pronounce it. So you spell it with a W, but you pronounce it with a V. So pinopronounce lang namin Wagner in accordance with the with the way it would be pronounced there. Okay.
We don't read Cyrillic.
Di ba? Yeah, yung mga malalalim na Cyrillic di na kaya. So, yung yung ano ba to? So, okay. By Saturday, nag-pull out na yung Wagner group and then yesterday ba yun? Or the other day, nag-speech na si Putin and called it treason. So, obviously, they're going to be dealing with the Wagner group. Pero ang tanong, sul-sul ba?
It's hard to say if there's money involved din kasi mercenary yan at the end of the day.
One, mercenary sila. So, hindi malayo. Number two, they're winning in the Ukraine or at least we get that impression. Okay?
Yun ang kanilang message.
Diba? Tapos, the timing is ridiculous. And then
parurusahan ba yung mga
of course treason, that's death penalty yan in most countries, if not all.
Execute.
Treason is a death penalty.
Firing squad.
Why now the reason for this is that the state first has to protect itself. Always. Kaya kahit hindi yan ilagay sa mga saligang batas nila, yung mga in general, the state as a person must protect itself before it can protect its own citizens. So ang pinakamataas na penalty nire-reserva talaga for strikes against the state.
Tsaka itong si Prigozhin may mga nasabi na against
the military establishment.
Which is indirectly nakatuto kay Putin. But yun na nga all of these transgressions, parang natunaw lahat. Di lang. Nung binabasa ko nga ito, talaga.
Parang kala mo, plot ng spy film.
Parang parang si Ludlum ba yung nag-script nito?
Sabi ng observer, makakasama kay Putin kapag walang kahit pa paano parusa dito. Kasi may reputasyon si Putin na talagang unswerving loyalty. Hindi
kasi, tingnan mo, ano yung end game? 5,000 lang sila, yung Wagner group. Pupunta sila, mag-marcha sila sa Moscow. Tapos he kept his rhetoric to not against Putin, just against this defense minister. Parang, what was his point? Pupunta siya doon, babarilin niya yung defense minister. Diba? Ano yung end game? What was he going to do? They were marching, but it wasn't clear.
Duduelo tayo pero may dala akong tropa. Diba? Ang ganun.
Diba, meron nagsasabing wrong, losing na ang Russia. So, kaya nga sinabi ko, Maverick, 2007, ang sinasabi ko, it gives that impression. Okay? Hinay-hinay dun sa mga conclusions ninyo, basahin nyo or makinig ng maigi because we will always put in that that caveat pagka hindi solid yung yung factual background. So, ang sabi ni Leonard Castillo, they're 25,000 strong. Pero ang tinitignan namin kasi dito ay yung reportage. Posible nga na 25,000 strong sila. But is that sufficient? Based on ano yung numbers ng Russian military ngayon?
There are more than 1 million siguro plus the conscripts
Against 25,000. But where are they? So, kung marami sa kanila nasa Ukraine, may chance. Kaya, strike.
Paano kung nasa Vladivostok yung iba?
He kept saying, this wasn't a coup, this wasn't of course, Prigozhin is a warlord.
Yeah.
Pwedeng nag-aambisyon to. Pero ang ano ko dito is parang masyadong, the impression again is masyadong malakas si Putin for you to have the ambitions to strike at his heart. Diba? Plus magkaibigan sila. I don't know if pero umiral na talaga pera dito. So but this guy financially di ba?
Lots of money. Ang ganda ng office na sa St. Petersburg. Yung Wagner.
Which is the highest valued real estate in all of Russia and territories. Plus, yung operations niya, as you were saying, yung operations niya sa South Africa.
All over Africa.
All over Africa, not just South Africa.
Not just South Africa. There are a few states in Africa that they have interests in, mga mining
mining
sila nagbabantay doon.
Itong Wagner Group kasi, ang main nakita nila is to provide security for these mines all over Africa. In addition to specialized security services. Kumbaga, these guys are known to be mercenaries na merciless. Talaga. Sila yung mga bumabaril ng mga civilians dun sa Africa. Lalo na yung mga blood diamonds. Yung mga,
shoot first, ask questions later.
So yan yung reputasyon nila.
They're that brutal.
Correct. So, in high demand sila, particularly dun sa mga industries na they don't care naman about human rights or anything like that. So, but there is nga a theory going around that this was panggulo sa Russia and could have been instigated by a not friendly country.
Some three-letter agencies. Or
correct.
We don't know.
Or yun nga, instigated to help balance out things dito sa Ukraine. Now, whether whoever is winning or not, but the prevailing, the mere fact na ang tahimik ng Western media about the state of affairs in Ukraine gives us an idea. Diba? That, all is not well for Ukraine. And this is a strike. Of course, given yung sitwasyon nga,
Zelensky naman hindi, nananalo kami.
Of course, if you're
dami namin nakuhang mga towns at mga
Good point. Artista nga pala yan. So, chosen precisely for his ability to lie without batting an eyelash.
Itong ni Prigozhin. This is something 10 years ago this would not have happened.
Wala yan.
Kay
Putin?
Oo. Somewhere, I don't know.
Kahit sino ka pa. So, notwithstanding, alam ko, yung matagal nang pinagbabantayan daw yung away niya nung defense, Pero, para ikaw magmarcha ka doon, tapos di ba?
This sounds like something, talaga, almost sci-fi.
Then tigil.
Spy novel.
Tigil siya, then baliktad, tapos
Ayun, sabi ni Ma'am Victoria sa ating YouTube, as per my research, Russia is winning as of now. Pinagtutulungan na nga sila pero nananalo pa rin. Russia kasi is so big.
Yeah.
Kasi we have a military of 1 million. Crap, I'd think twice. Diba? Plus, yung stoic nature ni Putin.
Talaga yan.
He rarely, hindi mo siya masyadong but that's really very Russian mentality. Hindi mo nakikita yung extremes of emotion, pero they can be really heartlessly cold.
Remember what they did to Chechnya, di ba?
Yun.
Several years, 20, 30 years ago, di ba? What they did to Chechnya.
What did they do to Chechnya for our listeners?
Di ba? Dinurog nila dati yun.
God.
Pero ngayon, maayos na Chechnya ngayon kasi kaibigan na nila di ba?
So, and there's that. But at the time, it was brutal.
Yeah, yun.
Brutal. Hindi,
Walang sinabi yung sa Iraq nun.
Correct. So,
yun na nga, yung personality niya, decisive. Kailangan gawin. It's yun ba, ano lang yung rescue dun sa, ano yun? Sa
yung opera house.
Sa opera house.
They gassed all the terrorists.
The opera house was taken by terrorists. Putin would have none of it. Operasyon, plano, tirahin nyo na yan.
Strike, di ba?
Strike.
Ang tindi ng strike na yun.
None of the Laleta type operation. Opera house yun. Nakabihis lahat ng ano.
Maski napatay yung onting civilians, basta most of them survive. Okay na yun.
Kasi para kay Putin, it's really, you do it because decisively, unswervingly, kasi the message is, wala nang ulit. Wala nang, ganun lang yun.
Ito, dagdag ni Michael Paraiso Duran sa ating YouTube. The Russian army is 1.15 million strong with 2 million reserve personnel. So, ang lagay niyan, nag-hold back pa sila sa Ukraine.
Tapos may conscription pa sila recently,
na ongoing, diba? Yes.
300,000 additional guys or something.
To augment the reserve personnel. So, ongoing ang training pa nila. So, ako, I think twice on taking on. I mean, of course, the Germans thought they would win against Russia.
Wala
in World War II. Yeah, but that was a mistake.
And then yan talagang unfolding pa rin.
Mayabang sila nun yung Germany.
Yeah.
Mayabang sila. They thought they could win. So, they start their strike.
Russians.
In the summer.
Yeah.
But when the Russian winter came,
patay na
wala.
Wala na. Nung inabot sila.
That was it. Without necessarily using its army, Russia defeated Hitler's forces. Of course, Hitler was overextended. He was fighting a war on two fronts. Pero
hindi niya kalain. Sinabihan na siya ng mga general niya, abutin tayo ng winter dyan, patay tayo.
Pag inabot ng winter.
Main Führer, patay tayo dyan. Wala masyado siyang Anyway, so, but in so far as Russia, ako, interesting to
Kasi di ba sabi nga nung Ukraine, magka-counter-strike na sila. Nasaan yung counter-strike?
Baka ikaw naman mauna-strike dyan. Anyway. Pero meron na sana akong gustong i-bring up na sa international news na rin.
Okay.
Again, this one I understand. I know the answer. Pero gusto lang i-put it out there. Di ba yung nangyari yung submersible, yung Titan?
Ay, yikes.
All of us now know what a submersible and a submarine is. So, submersible, ano po ito? Yung mga mayayaman na bilyonaryo,
recreational vehicle.
$250,000 each.
Per
ilan ba sila ron?
5.
Tapos ayan.
Including the owner, so 4.
Now, yung wisdom nila, yung umabot kayo maging bilyonaryo at nagpatrap kayo sa maliit na na yun. That's your call. But then, alam mo, may nasabayan pala yan na yung sa Mediterranean, the worst sea accident in the Mediterranean.
Refugees.
Over 700 people died.
Refugees yan,
At maraming na
overloaded
hindi pinansin ng media. Mas
even worse
talaga yung
dun sa mayaman.
Anong even worse?
Yung mga nagre-rescue sa kanila, mostly volunteers
hindi nga yung professional Coast Guard.
Hindi gaya itong sa Titan talagang
hinanap ng Coast Guard.
Now, one could easily say, well, gaya ng media, man bites dog. Pero hindi rin yung sinabi mo nga, pati yung rescue, what do you call this, activities para dito sa mga kawawang refugees na to, na yung, fishing boat lang to di ba?
A little bit larger ferry. Siguro, parang trawler siguro. Fishing trawler.
Tapos nalunod dun sa off the Mediterranean coast. Ayun, ang daming namatay. Pero yung attention talaga,
nandun sa mayaman.
Ganun ba talaga? I mean, ito ba yung far from involved
parang tingnan mo yung media dito dun sa Russia, automatically they called it a coup. Kahit ilang beses sinabi ni Prigozhin, I'm not after Putin. So, may karga, including yung allegedly sinasabi ni Prigozhin na yung mga pinapatay yung mga tao niya, nilibing yung mga 2,000 etc. So
it's a lot of stuff going on,
now it's more like na itong campaign ng traditional media against fake news, 2 beses tayo mag-isip before we buy into that. We should not buy into that because pati naman sila the idea is to make the space available so that we can all put in our information. Hindi tanggalin natin yung mga bashing kasi yung mga bashing yan yung reason kung bakit nagkakagalitan Pero yung space so that we can talk. Diba? Space where we can even put in our nastiest and even ridiculous ideas because sometimes they turn out to be true.
Sama na natin mga kibitzer.
Always the classic case is Galileo. And the center of the universe, the center of the solar system. 'Di ba? Our solar centric system. 'Di ba? But galit na galit yung simbahan. They tried to silence him and all that. Parang now, anybody who has a contrary idea and you see entire machineries, let's say of the state and all that, trying to quash that little opinion, we have to think twice. Look at the reportage on the war in Ukraine. It will depend on who you're listening to. There's nobody you can trust. Or there's very few. There's some that will give you good information sometimes and then bad information the next. Yeah. Or actually, opinion masquerading as information. Diba? Yung mga ganyan. The only thing that you can trust is to have a system where everybody can be heard. So, pwede ba, itong mga Maria Ressa type, yung mga Reuters, yan. Ang hilig niyan, Reuters, when they were here in the Philippines, hi Martin, yung reporter kasi nila, nung time ni Duterte, I was with PCOO.
Oh, yeah.
So, the difficulty in the interviews, ako yung binabato.
Alang, yeah. Are these French guys ba?
German.
Germans.
Sa Reuters? Okay, anyway.
Yung reporter at the time, pero si Marte, I don't know what his nationality was. We could speak German, so then, kasi I studied German, so we would have small conversations in German. Mostly it was, hi, hello, how are you, what are you doing? Please slow down because I cannot understand you. That was coming from me. So, the interview pa lang, alam mo na yung killing yung mga tanong, alam mo na yung mga loaded
Ang tawag doon ay provocative interview.
I understand provocative, but provocative towards one particular conclusion is another thing.
Parang they made up their minds already.
Yun na yun. So all of these issues, media related yan. Yung naglanding yung eroplano sa tarmac ng NAIA, na hindi natin alam kung saan nanggaling.
It's a C-17?
Yeah.
Oh, di ba? Bakit may C-17 dyan? Wala namang balikatan ngayon.
Wala nga.
Di ba?
Baka ito, parang I think that these are the normal operations.
Sabi ko makagaling sa balikatan, ito na yung mga dregs, pauwi na sila.
Naglanding
May naiwan silang gamit.
Naiwan gamit.
May pinipick up sila na it can be anything.
Precisely.
So, although I'm not buying into the refugee theory.
C-17.
Right now.
It's a C-17 for crying out loud. It's a big aircraft.
Huge. Ito yung mga kasya yung ilang truck.
5 Humvees, I think.
Basta yung ito yung makikita mo yung pag naglo-load sila. It's not unusual to see them. Yung mga 6x na truck na
niloload nila dalawa.
Minsan tangke. Transport sila ng tangke using a C-17. So hindi kaya unusual na you'll see something that big.
In reason ito nasa news nga kasalukuyang nililigawan ng US at ng China ang mayor ng gobyerno ng Batanes. The US will provide and may pa-provide nila certain logistical support or ang China naman agricultural. So baka yun may dala tong tawag mo
yung C-17. Hindi na makakalanding yun doon.
Precisely dito muna dinala, pinireposition dito, preposition, and then idadali doon sa Batanes. Hindi na muna. Coordination sila na yung with our...
Marami raw C-17s ang naglanding, sabi ni Sir Francis, dito sa NAIA. Merong, there's a collection daw, apparently, of aircraft photographer na nakakalanding sa NAIA. Ang tanong is, how many C-17s of the US Air Force? Kasi yun yung nandun sa And of course, alam nyo sa akin, if the DFA issued a statement right away,
okay.
Yeah, even without a balikatan, this is part of EDCA. They can put in in fact, that's why we expanded the number of bases that they have access to, the number of camps that they have access to, is that for the next balikatan, they can advance the military hardware or whatever else they need so that they are pre-positioned into these camps. Diba? Simple statement would have allayed the fears, but now it's gonna go viral because you're not talking and you're not telling us anything.
Na-delay yung email. Hindi nasabi tuloy.
Nakalimutan na yung memo. May memo pala.
It got lost
somewhere
in the transmission. Ganon.
Yung ganyan, pwedeng tumakbo ngayon sa DFA. Ano to?
Bakit merong...
No, but whatever comes... The current government has, the president is a good spokesperson for himself. Pero please don't leave this to the president to explain. Parang awa niya na DFA step up. Diba? Tell us what's going on. It could be completely innocent for all we know. Yun nga, nagdala ng pagkain for the existing US troops dito. At huwag tayong maglokohan. Alam naman natin na hindi umaalis ang mga tropa ng US dito sa Pilipinas. Tuloy-tuloy yan. Nire-replace lang sila.
Baka mamaya sa press con sa Malacanang itanong kay Secretary Cheloy Garafilian.
Meron bang press briefer ngayon? Hindi naman nagpa-press briefer si Sec Cheloy.
Okay. Refrigerated container daw na sticks.
Uy, dapat
Well, US Embassy, di ba? They fly in their own supplies.
Yeah, but they don't use military planes. They use a diplomatic pouch.
Ang dami namang stage na
baka na, nagtitipid na yung US Embassy.
Wala silang kwarta eh. Masabay mo sa Air Force.
But that is plausible.
Masabay mo sa Air Force, di ba?
Naglaway tuloy si Engineer Venero, stakes. Galing po, in-airlift. Wow. Those are the sticks from Iowa na USDA.
50 thick.
Di ba? Kailangan lang So, ang importante.
Bawal na sa akin yan. Tatamaan ako ng gout.
Yung ganito kalaking porterhouse.
Yung porterhouse.
Oh my gosh. Gutom na ako tuloy.
Who mentioned steaks? Come on.
Alam mo, Martin, pag nag-uusap ng steak, you have to be prepared.
Na merong steak dyan. Chocolate lang.
Sa Antis, bili tayo tapos ihawin.
Oo nga pala, no?
Sa Antis dun sa tabi.
Hindi ko nakikita yung mga steaks nila. Usually, I buy cheese. So maraming salamat sa pagsubaybay sa karambola nitong araw na ito. Lalo-lalo na ang saya ng mga diskusyon.
At kung may retrato pa kayo ng mga malalaking cargo na aeroplano.
Padala nyo po. Tag nyo kami.
Pero yung steak, pwede na rin.
Salamat din sa mga congratulations nito kay Attorney Larry. Makakaabot po. We wish him well.
Controversial Attorney Larry Gadon.
The controversial.
Kulang yun eh. The controversial.
Bombastic.
But beloved. Attorney Larry Gadon.
Nagkaroon na siya ng gano'n kasi parang kay PBBM. Son of the ex-dictator. Yung mga controversial.
Son of the former dictator. May tagline sila. Fine. Layakapin yan ni Attorney Larry. Sure, why not? Diba? Maraming salamat. On behalf of Martin Cojo and Laksamana, we will see you tomorrow. Okay? Ang tabayanan, susunod na programang Ronda Pilipinas with Mr. Dennis Antenor Jr. Ako po si Trixie Cruz Angeles.
Karambola.
Sumayin niyo ang programang Karambola sa DWIZ. Hanggang sa muli, tayo'y magbabalik upang ihatid ang pagtalakay sa iba't ibang mga issue. Dito pa rin sa programang Karambola sa DWIZ.